One of the best days ever as a New York sports fan right there, and the guy that hit that historic post 9/11 home run is our first guest. Welcome to that Jamieson show. We're going to get him right in here because he's zooming in all the way from Italy. He is a Major League Baseball Hall of Famer and a true blue metalhead. Haven't seen him in a while since he moved to Italy, so it'll be good to catch up. With number 31, Mike Piazza. What's up, Mikey?
Don, good to see you again. Actually, I'm in the States for a few weeks, so I came back for some business, and but yeah, I do live in Italy full time now. I'm heading back actually next week, so
Cool.
we're on the same time zone, so don't worry about anything.
Well, it would be late in the day. It'd be about dinner time in Italy now, right?
Yeah, it's 6 hours ahead,
Cool.
and it's a lot of fun.
Mike, what are you doing in town?
I came in for some business. You know, our family's in the car business in Philadelphia. And so I come in for meetings from time to time, and then I come down to Miami. I still have a lot of friends down here, and just staying busy. I mean, I still work with the Mets in the alumni program there, and working with the alumni of the Mets, former Mets. We got some really cool events next year. You know, the Tom Seaver statue will be opening day, so. Yeah, we got some really cool events planned next summer, so I look forward to seeing you out at Citi Field next year.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's been a while. And mentioning Tom Seaver because, I think you are obviously, one of my favorite Mets. You and Tom Seaver, 1A and 1B. You've kind of had a special relationship with Tom, right, over the years?
Yeah, no, he was great. I mean, ever since the day I was traded to the Mets in 1998, he's been in my corner and supported me and talked to me about a lot of the nuances of playing in New York, about the pressure and the fans. And basically his advice was just, look, play hard, hustle, be yourself, relax. The fans are demanding. It's market number one, but if you can do well here and relax and produce, they'll love you forever. And that advice was never true to form. I mean, he's a sweetheart guy. He was a wine guy. He was a real eclectic.
There you go.
Just an interesting guy. Yeah, I loved him. I mean, life has been really difficult, as you well know, in the last few years for everyone. We've lost a lot of people close to us, both famous and family. And so, he's a big hole, man. He's a big hole in my heart. And, but we'll carry on with him and his legacy and keep the Mets tradition alive. So, I mean, we'll miss him, but we'll look forward to honoring his legacy, no doubt.
Oh yeah, and look, you and Seaver, I mean, forever here in New York, for sure. I never forget meeting Tom Seaver for the first time. I was actually with, I think a lot of people know you and Eddie Trunk are good friends. And when I was doing that show Beer Money for SNY, they gave me the suite for a couple games. And we were standing there one time and, especially Eddie, but we both met like every rock star on earth, everybody who's huge, all these people. And I just saw Eddie's eyes bug out of his head. And I go, what? He goes, Tom Seaver just walked into the suite. And I was facing the other way. And I was like, what do we do? And he's like, I guess we take a picture. And then he was right behind us. And we're like, Tom, we're so excited to meet you. And he goes, how you doing, fellas? We go, we're good. And he talked to us for a few minutes. He was really nice. He was bringing some of his wine down to the suite. And then I go, he might have had a glass. I'm just speculating.
Yeah, sure. Or two.
His complexion was a little rosy. And so what a thrill for me and Eddie. But then we got so caught up in the moment, he started walking out. I'm like, oh, wait, Mr. Seaver, can we get a picture with you? And he turns around and his face just goes stone. And he's like, absolutely not. And Eddie and I look at each other, and then he just starts laughing. He goes, of course, for you guys, anything. Come on, get over here. And
he totally pranked you guys. That's funny you say that because, one of my geek moments was I grew up in Philly, and I was a big 76ers fan, and they're great teams of the 70s and 80s, with Dr. J and Moses Malone.
Yep.
And so the first time I really met Dr. J, I mean, I met him once as a kid, but it was like, like fan appreciation day. So I was like, all right, get out of here, kid. And so I told him, I said, Doc, I was at that game on the floor when you dunked over Michael Cooper against the Lakers. And I go, it was awesome. And he goes, you were in the house that night? And I said, yeah. And he goes, cool.
That's it.
And
That's cool.
I thought he was going to be like, oh yeah, that's great, whatever. And I was like, okay, awkward moment. Doc, I love you, man. Good seeing you.
Yeah.
So it's funny.
He was one of my favorites too, growing up, Mike. So talk about Italy a little bit, man. I know you've been over there a few years now. We had a little COVID conference call last summer during the lockdown, which was nice to catch up again. But how's things going over there? And did you discover any new bands during the lockdown?
No, but what's funny is my band story. Well, first off, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I a few years ago, my wife and I just wanted to do something different and give our kids a European experience and give them the gift of languages. And that's been really good. I mean, my kids speak fluent Italian now. My two girls speak pretty fluent French. They're actually, my oldest now is learning Spanish. So we did it backwards. We lived in Miami, but Spanish is the last language we learn and not the first.
Yeah.
We get off the plane and they go, we're glad to be back in Miami where everyone speaks Spanish. So it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
And but no, it's been a great experience. And the funny thing about bands is, I was a big fan of Riot when I was in high school, and they have this cool documentary about the evolution of the band and how they started with Fire Down Under, and then they went kind of speed metal, and now they're kind of into power metal, and it's a really cool documentary on YouTube. And but I've always been a huge fan, and they do a lot of the classic hits. So I found out they were like the year before COVID, they were playing at a small club in Rome. So I jumped on a train and I found out where they were playing, and I got a hotel real close there. And I had my publicist call the band, and they're like, Mike Piazza, right? And and she's like, yeah, the Met, the Hall, and they're like, the real Mike Piazza. Like, they didn't believe that I was down there for the show.
Yeah.
And I literally walk in backstage before they were going on. It was like this shit club, it was grungy, and it was just in the worst part of town. It was this little crappy club, and we went in back, and they were like, the first band stole all of our beer, so they had no booze. And they were just like in shock when I walked in, and they were like, it is Mike Piazza, and they put on a great set, and they wanted me to play drums for the famous song, not Johnny's Back, but my mind escapes me out from the
Outlaw.
I'm sorry,
Outlaw or Swords and Tequila.
Swords and Tequila. Yeah. Swords and Tequila. So he wanted me to play drums, and I said, dude, I'm so rusty. I'll just totally shit the bed. So I went up on stage and sang with him. I put a little thing on my Instagram, but that's my kind of metal story from Italy. And then since COVID, there's nothing. I was going to go see Accept in Milan, which was only about a 40-minute train ride for me. And I was talking, with those guys, and it just, I never got up to that show. But so it's starting to come back. I mean, I imagine now in the next year, things will get better, and hopefully, we'll be able to start going to shows. I see online with you and Eddie and guys have been getting back to it. It seems like things are slowly getting back to normal, and I'm looking forward to getting back backstage and just chilling, watching some great music.
Yeah, I went Sunday night to see Zach, and if I'm not mistaken, you're the godfather to one of his sons. Is that
yeah, I saw him. I haven't seen Zach in a few years, and I'm looking forward to seeing him again. I'm looking at his schedule. I'm going to try and sort of get a travel thing going where I can jump in and surprise him. But yeah, he's an old friend, as you well know, Jersey guy, known each other for a long time, and man, it's amazing how the time flies. I mean, it was funny. I stood in his godfather for Hendrix when he was a baby, and we baptized him in L.A. And then I think literally 10 years goes by, and I see him. I was like, he was almost taller than me. He's a big kid, and I was stunned. I was like, yeah, I remember holding you as a kid, and so he and Barbara Ann are good friends, and it sucks. That's what I hate about so much now, that with COVID and now being so far away from it makes it harder now to travel, because now with everything and the restrictions, you got to get tested, you got to have a green pass, you got a vaccination, you have to show all this. And It was hard enough just to go keep in touch with everyone before all this, but now it's a lot more difficult. But I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing them very soon.
Yeah, man. It was a great night, and yeah, the concerts are coming back. Went to M3 for the first time this year. Eddie and Jim and I hosted a festival down in Tennessee. We're going to do the Monsters of Rock cruise and all that stuff. So yeah, things are opening up again, and been out doing the stand-up, which is cool. Have you discovered any rock bands in Italy? We need a good Italian rock band in here in America.
Oh, they had a band that opened for those guys. I don't think they're very well known. That is true. And I know it's really tough for me. I kind of got as when Stone Temple Pilots kind of disappeared a little bit from the scene. I really am not into a lot of new stuff. No. I actually need to get together with you because I need like a crash course on kind of who's cool now and who's new. And it's funny, Eddie and I and you, we talk many times. Now you see a lot of collaboration. So they're not really bands in the sense of the word. It's like this guy gets together and they do these things, especially online. They do this because you could record from your own house now. So it's not like they have to go to the castle like Zeppelin. They go up to the top. Right. They're having tea and crimpets and they have the engineer and everyone's up there. It's like this guy's in Texas and that guy's in California and this guy's in New York. And so it's changed a lot. You don't see a lot of that camaraderie, or at least these bands that are institutional bands with anthem songs. It's just a lot of collaboration, and obviously, well, for lack of a better word, a lot of guys are old. They're not in the industry anymore, or some people, God forbid, have passed away. So the bands aren't the original lineups and things, but we still love hearing the songs, and we still love getting together with people and being nostalgic about history. So that's what I enjoy, but I really need to pay a little bit more attention to the newer bands and see what's kind of out there. Cause there are some really talented kids. We can call them kids. They're a lot younger than us. And so I'm looking for it. I really, anytime you want to pass some information, say, hey, check out this band, check out that band. I'm all ears.
I'm going to send you a few that I think you'll like, cause I know you taste in music pretty well. Speaking of nostalgia, Axl said, never in this lifetime. When are you getting back together with Slash? Never in this lifetime. And what happens? Boom. The last 6 years they've been on the road. Have you been able to see it since they've been back again together?
I did. I saw them a few years ago, actually, in Philly, I think it was. And they sounded great. I mean, they played forever. They played all the songs. I think Axl finally realized that there's a good market out there for the band, and they make great money. And obviously, it's funny. You're looking at tickets now. When I was a kid, I found some tickets I went to my mom and dad's house and I looked in my old room and I found like Rat Bon Jovi, $7.50, to get in. And I think you can't even get some popcorn now for that. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. I mean, everything now years ago, they made money on the record. Yeah. And now they make money on the tour. So it flipped, and people are paying like outrageous sums of money to go to the show and do the meet and greet and get the autographs and things like that. Look, I mean, God bless the bands. It's capitalism. If people want to pay $1,000 a ducat to go see the band and meet, God bless. I mean, hey, no one's pointing a gun at them and saying you got to go. So I love when people complain, though. You're like, oh, I got to pay all this money, then they're there. You know what I mean? So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so listen, if you'll pay $500 to talk to Kiss through plexiglass, that's up to you. Then no one's forcing you. That's how the bands. Now, listen, in Kiss's case, they don't. That's just. To me, that's unnecessary. But hey, if as you said, if the fans will pay it. But obviously now, Mike, which sucks for a lot of bands, is that's where they were really making some profit on the road is through the meet and greet. Some of the smaller bands, and you mentioned Bon Jovi and Rat, which I remember that tour because I saw it in Jersey. It was Bon Jovi opening for Rat back then. Yeah, no, it's so true. And then a few years later, I remember going to Rat. I think it was. The one with not the second record, the one with Dangerous but Worth the Risk. Yeah, Invasion of Your Privacy. Invasion of Your Privacy, yeah, and it was huge. It was like this big production, and the same thing. I mean, I was like, I remember those guys when they were opening for Bon Jovi, So that was fun. Obviously, we're dating ourselves. I mean, we sound like dinosaurs now because I think. That's an era gone by, but I used to love that era of big
rock shows. I mean, you go to the Spectrum in Philadelphia and see like 40 tractor trailer rigs lined up with the equipment and the lights, and now you see bands touring, like they get off the plane and they just have their guitar, and I'm like, well, where's all your gear? They're like, oh, we do SIR.
Yeah.
And so they play, so they'll get to the gig and like the lights are rented, you know, the amplifiers are rented, the PA system's rented, and they just show up and do a sound check and play. So things have changed. I mean, but I always remember those days. I mean, the Motley Crue tour, the one after Dr. Feelgood tour. I mean, that production was ridiculous, and I remember being at the show and saying, man, I looking back again, you don't appreciate it now because you just don't see it as much. And concerts today, it's funny. When we were younger, it seems like I was watching, and my kids, it's funny, you know, the funniest thing is introducing the music to your kids, because I'll be on the way to school and I'll put on like Quiet Riot, Bang Your Head, Slayer, Angel of Death, and I'm playing on songs, and then my daughter's like, Daddy, that's scary. You know, she was younger. And now, you know, my son's like, they know Bang Your Head. And I remember playing the US Festival of Quiet Riot when they were doing Bang Your Head, and there was like 100,000 people out there. And I showed my kids, and my daughter was like, oh my God, do all those people like that band? Like, it was just funny because she couldn't put two and two together, that she, you know, didn't really know that this band was that popular at one time. And even though that was a one-off festival, you know, those things just don't happen as much.
Well, that was when metal ruled the world, though. So, you know, that collection of bands for sure had, you know, a lot of crossover fans. And, you know, that was a huge day at the US Festival back then. Now, how many of you got 3 kids? How many of them have embraced the rock? Have you got at least one?
They all have. All 3 of them. And it's funny. You want to laugh because the other day, I was making a joke with my son, and my son is 8. He's such a great age. And I was like, don't call me dude. So then I played the Scatterbrain video of Don't Call Me Dude. And now that's like our inside joke. And he'll go, don't call me dude. And it's so cute. And the video, and he laughed so hard at the video because of the part where the guy was walking and he was ticked off and he punched the old lady and then he tried to kick the dog. And we were just having this moment, and because he was so kind of enthralled that this song actually existed and this video existed, and he was completely blown away. And that's what's so great about the modern technology of YouTube, is that you can play a music video or something right on cue. Because I'll say something to my daughters and I'll be like, you know, Quiet Riot played in front of 100,000. They're like, no way. And then I'll put it right up. But my oldest daughter is really into the Korean pop band, but she does kind of do 50-50. So she listens to the Van Halen. She was listening to Little Dreamer the other day by herself in a room. She likes Heart, you know, because of the vocals and things. So I never forced it on them, but I think they just kind of learned it through osmosis. But, you know, you got to pass on the metal. You got to bring them up right. You got to play it for them, and then kind of not force it down their throats, but they kind of come along, and the music is so good that I think they naturally just start to enjoy it.
Yeah, and like you said, if you can show them a bit of the history about how these bands, you know, really did rule the world at one point, it helps, you know, put that in their head. And man, it's funny you say that, man, because, you know, especially now that I've been out opening for bands a lot the last 10 years, I notice over the last couple that there's this new young wave of that metal show fans. Like these 21, 22-year-old, mostly, you know, young men, but sometimes young women as well. And they'll come out to see the show and they'll go, I came out to see you because I used to watch that metal show with my dad when I was like 10. And, you know, now they're young adults and they're coming out and seeing their favorite rock bands. And then, you know, seeing one of the guys from that metal show, the show that they, you know, remember because their dad or their mom shared it with them.
Yeah, and it's the same thing in sports. I mean, it makes me feel old because I have people come up to me, especially guys in the big leagues now, and they're like, "Oh, I used to love you as a kid." I was like, "Man, make me feel old." But sure, and that's the fun of it because, as I said, with kids, the fun part is I think they see how much you enjoy it and how much it meant to you. And I would tell my daughters like, "Hey, I would be on a 10-hour bus ride in the minor leagues, and I put in Metallica and I would put in all the songs, Van Halen, and so when these guys are not, or obviously when Eddie passed away, it was really difficult for me because he was such a big part of my youth and inspiring me. But the funny thing is they really love AC/DC, and so I don't know if they're going to tour for this next record. But my daughter, she's 14, she's like, Dad, they're like really old now. And I'm like, they better get out there because God knows how many years they have left. So.
I know these like 2 COVID years are really critical to some of these bands. I mean, is the stadium tour going to happen? Like now delayed for till the third summer? Like, is that really realistically going to happen? Is Ozzy going to be ever going to be able to tour again now? That'll be a 3-year delay. I mean, I have a friend who bought tickets 3 years ago for the Ozzy Judas Priest dates over in Europe, and she was going to fly over there and go see a bunch of the shows. So those tickets are still on hold. You got what was it? The other big one that we don't know about if it'll happen. There's been a few that have been delayed, and in that time is like, now can these bands still go do it?
Well, it's kind of like, I always say it's like being an athlete. I mean, an athlete can't really take a year or two off in the prime of the career and crank it back up.
Yeah.
Because you have that edge, you're in shape, and it's probably the same thing in music, probably a little less so because they can kind of rehearse and see if they still have get together and things like that to rehearse. But there is a certain edge too. You have to have a certain sort of energy to get out on that road and get up and go. And we've seen it though. I mean, some bands like Aerosmith, obviously, they would do maybe 1 or 2 shows a week instead of every night of the week. Yep. And that the demand is high and that they're making good revenue and they're still selling out. Yeah, they can probably space it out and kind of do the senior citizen program where they don't have to crank it up every night. Whereas in the old days, it was like, we're at one town next day, then we're in next town, we're taking a bus, then we're next town, and that was the old days of rock and roll. But hey, we just got to thank God we still have them and enjoy them. And I tell people all the time, just enjoy today what you have, because God forbid tomorrow, it's as we've seen the last 2 years, it can vanish pretty quickly. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to getting back out there and seeing some good shows.
Yeah, I did 6 weeks on the road opening for the Dead Daisies, and you talk about a guy who's still performing at an unbelievably high level. But Glenn Hughes, my God, to watch that guy at 70 sing every night like he's 20 was unbelievable.
That's true, and I think it's a combination. I mean, genetics and taking care of himself. I talked to Glenn a few years. I mean, maybe it's probably been over a decade now, but he was telling me how he's kind of vegan and he's really into yoga and taking care of. So yeah, I mean, Mark from Accept too. We had talked to him about taking care of his voice, and years ago, you can't do now the beer and cigarettes thing. These guys really have to concentrate on their body and take care of themselves, because I know this from sports. It can deteriorate very quickly. So you gotta. It's not exactly rock and roll, knowing that you're going to have a salad after the game.
That's right.
A salad and grape juice, but whatever it takes to get the music out there.
Oh yeah, Mike, it's so funny how the scene has flipped. This whole rock and roll mystique of getting backstage at a show. Like when we were kids, could we have ever imagined being backstage at a Kiss show or Van Halen or any of that? Now here it is years later, and we have been backstage at all those shows. But you've seen how now it's like, and I see it from the other side of the stage, where I see these people begging the security, please, I must get backstage under any circumstance. I have to get back there. And if they can somehow weasel the way back, it's just 5 old guys looking at their phone. There's no booze, there's no groupies, there's nothing. It's just guys going.
Rock one time too, and I remember I was there at the show, and it might have been you or someone else, and they go, well, we know Mike's not a rock and roll guy because he's the only guy with his watch is over $5,000. No watches and stuff, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess that, because I didn't want to get the check. That was the time that Ace had check, which is an infamous story that I stuck Ace with my food bill.
Well, you picked up enough food bills over the years, and I've been to shows with you. You are absolutely a true rocker. I mean, I remember Priest down in Fort Lauderdale, man. Just me, you, Eddie, and Jim just rocking out like you're 13. That's the beauty of it, man. As soon as they start playing those songs again, you forget everything.
Yeah, no, I remember a few years ago too. I went to the Hard Rock here and it was Whitesnake, and the funniest thing was David Coverdale, and he comes out, and it was hot in there, and he's like, "Hello, Hollywood, Florida," and he goes, "You people live here?" He goes, "It's so bloody humid," and we're all like, "Yeah, we live here. Yeah, this is Florida," and you could just see the makeup like melting off his face. And,
yeah.
And the funniest thing though, I remember when he played Bad Boys, you know, I'm up on the front, like banging my head, you know, and you know, and they still sound great. I mean, so as I've said, I take what I can get, and it's funny watching half the audience will go there to watch, you know, the '80s video song, and then our old core, you know, guys, I'm like, spit it out, you know, and everyone's like, what song is that? I haven't heard that one before.
Yeah,
I go,
is that a new one?
I was like, there was a band before Tony Katane in the videos from the '80s. You know, they just kind of evolved in certain ways. So
yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see if DC is able to go out and do this farewell tour that, you know, he's promising that Whitesnake will do one more time around the world. But again, if these restrictions keep up, you know, who knows if he gets to the point where he just doesn't feel like he can do it. But hopefully, and hopefully Oz, you know, hopefully Ozzy. But if he's not the madman, there's no sense to do it, because, you know what I mean. Like you said, you still want to have that edge. If he's going to just come out and mumble into the mic, we don't want that. If he could come out and be the madman, you know, like he was on that last Black Sabbath tour, you know, he was on fire. I'll take that any day. If not, thank you for everything, Oz. Appreciate it.
yeah, that's true. I mean, I've said it's not how you start, it's how you finish. But you know, he was supposed to be retired after the No More Tears. Remember the No More tours after No More Tears?
92.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be interesting. I mean, I assume again, if he's still in decent condition, I'm sure he could wing it, because we also have not talked about the fact that the production levels are so much higher, and there's an ability for them. They don't have to work as hard because of the enhancements in audio, video, and sound, and making the sound better. Whereas in the old days, you know, I'm sure it was just more difficult. That now they can kind of do some more backups and things like that can help them out, which is fine with me. You know, it's you know, when I learned the Kiss Alive 2 was overdubbed, I was really disappointed, because I was like, what? That wasn't pure live? You know what I mean? It was kind of like going to Disneyland and realizing there was someone in the Mickey Mouse suit.
There is? Whoa. Yeah, no, you're right, and with in-ears too, it makes it a lot easier for singers, because they don't have those monitors blasting in their face, because they're all deaf now, you know. So if you're not playing through the monitors, those definitely help, and maybe the time off will help Oz, because he's had so many health problems. But speaking of Ozzy, and then I'll let you go, man. I don't want to take up your whole day, but I you know, the thing, obviously, besides just being such a great player for my favorite baseball team, but you used to come up to Ozzy and all kinds of great stuff. But I think I remember vaguely, like you kept pushing it, and didn't you get in trouble at one point? You were playing stuff that was a little too heavy for the Mets.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we used to pick our own walk-up music, and that's funny. I mean, I always went with something that was, I don't want to say mainstream, but Mean Street, you know, from Van Halen sounded good over the speakers walking up, you know, with the intro to it. And there was a couple other songs I played, some Hendrix, because it sounded cool. And then, yeah, it was funny walking up. If it had this heavy connotation, it just didn't sound good. But the funniest story was when Zach played the national anthem in 1999 at Shea Stadium. And he goes out there with his guitar, and he's still got the bell bottoms, and he starts playing his rendition of the national anthem. And the owner of the team, Fred Wilpod, just freaking out, because he had never heard anything like that. And it was like 40,000 people. I think it was September, so it was like we were still in the hunt for the pennant, and he just I think it's online. I think that version is on YouTube somewhere, but I mean, just to see Zach playing, the national anthem, and it wasn't like the Hendrix version; it was just Zach's version. So if you want some entertainment, go back and watch that. But I just remember Fred Wilpot after the game losing his mind because he had never heard anything like that in his life.
Who's this blonde berserker? With the crazy loud guitars. But
Gosh.
yeah, good times, man. Mike, thank you so much, dude. Appreciate some time today. It's good to reconnect, and I'll send you some new bands that you're gonna love, dude.
Please, God bless, man. Good seeing you.
I'll see you, Mike. Best to you and the family.
All right, you too, man.
Be good. There he is. Rock. I have a million things to talk to the guy about, but we don't want to take up his whole day.